And welcome back to another episode of SportsVibe. I'm Arnav Sarkar. I've got Jitesh and Kapil today. So full house, all three hosts. And yeah, we've got an exciting show. We're going to be talking about some college football, which officially started yesterday. A lot of great games. A lot more great games will be happening next week in week one. But I enjoyed watching some week zero games, especially Hawaii Vanderbilt, which kind of was an exciting one last night. And then in terms of week one, we'll preview the biggest games to watch because there's going to be a ton of them full first full week of games, and we might also talk about some NFL, some Giants Jets, maybe look ahead to their regular season openers now that they had their Battle of New Jersey, Battle of New York, Battle of MetLife, whatever you want to call it, the MetLife
It,
Bowl.
it's all no, it's always the Battle of New Jersey. It's always the Battle of New Jersey.
That's fair. They do play New Jersey. I'm used to calling it like the MetLife Bowl or like some people call it the Snoopy Bowl or like whatever. But
Oh, right,
because
Snoopy. Never mind.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm. So, but anyway, Aaron Rodgers made his Jets debut. Looked pretty good. First drive he went, I think he went three and out, or he ended up punting it back. But then second drive he had a touchdown. Garrett Wilson. Giants look pretty decent at times. They've mostly played backup, say, and Tommy DeVito in for a while, and they had some
again, like
Jalen Hyatt + Gardner matchup, so that was
yeah,
interesting
like
too.
the preseason itself. Like, I don't think any of us should give that much weight on it.
Right.
If anything, it's really to see how our rookies have done, how any
Yeah. So
UFDA, yeah,
that's true.
UFDAs, undrafted free
Exactly,
agents,
exactly.
and
It's
then
more for that, and then the starters will get like a drive here or
yeah,
there just to get like
I'm,
ready
I
for the
mean,
regular season.
listen, don't get me wrong. If Aaron Rodgers throws four interceptions in a preseason game, I will laugh like a maniac.
Yeah, because
But
those are the backups too
yeah,
on defense.
yeah, yeah. But
Hmm.
then again, we should not care about the preseason that much. Like, if anything, it's really to see like, oh, it like for example, like Justin Jefferson when he was drafted first. Like, and
Right. What
well,
can he do?
well,
It's like
wait, did 2020 even have a preseason? I don't think so, right?
I don't
I
remember. I
don't
don't
even
think so.
remember.
I don't think so.
Okay, then I guess let's take a more current example. And of course, I'll be talking about this guy in a couple of minutes. Let's take the guy who was drafted number three overall in 2021, some guy named Trey Lance. And we
Trade
Yeah.
to
will be talking,
Dallas.
no, we will be talking about him in a little bit.
Yes.
But like for example, during that preseason, 2020, for the 21-22 season, like, you know, the question is right there. Like, when we watch the first three or four preseason games, whatever it is Trey Lance ready to be the quarterback just now? Obviously, the answer to that question was no at the time. But still, the preseason is to give us a foundation, a building block, an idea of whether the guy we drafted is really right for us. I mean, of course, like no one cares about the seventh round pick. Like no one's gonna say, "Oh, I wonder if he's gonna make the team. Is he a right fit for our scheme and everything?" I mean, no one really cares. But then again, Tom Brady was a sixth round pick, and
Mm.
He turned out fairly all right, I think. Um, but still, like it's just an evaluation to see, are you ready to jump for the next level? Like the preseason, it's like the minor league baseball, of course, within a very shorter time frame. But
Hmm.
Mhm.
so none of it none of us should hold too much weight if Lamar Jackson is awful in the preseason or something like that. We shouldn't hold
Right.
too much weight on it. But still, speaking of giving guys a chance, I don't think Trey Lance was given of a chance.
I
Like
agree.
I don't think he
I
was
mean,
either.
granted, no, last year he played for a grand total of what, like 7 seconds until he snapped his ankle or something last year, and
Yeah, yeah.
he's out for the season. And of course, like
Mhm.
what I really don't get is like like John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. You traded away like a boatload for this guy. Like you traded what
Yeah.
what was it again? Like two, it was two first round picks. Let's see,
No, three,
20.
three.
Oh, right, three. God damn, wow.
21, 22, and 23.
23. And of course those were engaged in swaps, yeah. So
Mhm.
Jesus, that's and all you trade from is a fourth. Like, forget about that. I mean, forget about that. If it's one thing if a draft pick does not work out. Me being a Patriots fan and seeing wide receivers, I've seen a fair lot of that.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And we just had a trade too, Jitesh. Did you see we traded a running back from last year that we drafted last year for
I
a
did.
tackle from Cleveland? Yeah.
I did. I mean, I like the idea. I like the idea of that trade because, we've already got our 1-2 punch with Ramondre and Zeke.
Mhm.
So I like the idea of bolstering the O-line, especially when Mike number 71 is still yet to come back from health, is still yet to be healthy. But
Yeah.
getting back on track. It's one thing if you trade the guy for lesser value because it doesn't work out. Like, for example, Isaiah Simmons just recently he was traded to the Giants for a 7th-round pick. But,
For a bag of popcorn, for a half-empty bag of popcorn.
Yeah, and Isaiah Simmons was what, a top 10 pick 2 years ago?
Oh yeah.
I think he was like 7th or 8th if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Remember, there were, kind of discussions about, who the Giants should take at 4. Would it be Andrew Thomas?
Andrew Thomas.
Or would it be Isaiah Simmons? And 4 years later, 3 years later.
Well, the Giants ended up getting their guy both
yeah.
ways. But
yeah.
but still, like, I think, like, I mean, you sitting behind Garoppolo for a year for 21-22, that's fine, whatever. And of course, Trey Lance gets the starting gig, even though he didn't look all that great in the previous preseason of 22-23, and he gets hurt in his first season, and boom, there goes everything. And now to be fair to Shanahan and Lynch, they're like, all right, we've given this guy 2 years, even though he was effectively redshirted for his rookie year, and he couldn't show us anything in the second year. So to be fair to them, they could have been thinking the experiment was over at that moment. But here's the thing: when Jimmy Garoppolo went down last season, and Brock Purdy, what did he do? He tore his UCL or something. He tore something in his arm.
I think it was the UCL in the playoff game.
Yeah, and speaking now, Shohei Ohtani with the Angels is torn, which is just devastating.
Yeah.
I love Shohei Ohtani, my favorite player in the game right now. But going back on that, like, and of course, like, for his shoulder surgery or UCL surgery, I don't remember, for Brock Purdy, the report said he'd need 6 months recovery time post surgery from the and he got the surgery, I think, like during free agency or something like that. So, I mean, and San Francisco is not bringing back Garoppolo. So your option was an injured Brock Purdy or a fully healthy and recovered Trey Lance. And I think everyone in their mind, San Francisco and 31 other GMs, thought Trey Lance was going to be the starter. Now, it's one thing if you sign Sam Darnold for depth pieces. I get that because San Francisco's unfortunately cursed with a butt ton of injuries. Otherwise, they probably would have won 2 or 3 Super Bowls by now. But still, like, you traded away Trey Lance when this is really the season. He had all to prove, and was given effectively zero chance. Like, you're gonna trust Brock Purdy. I mean, forget the whole Mr. Relevant thing and the NFC Championship run. We're going into this season now. Don't base anything off of past metrics. Don't be a prisoner of the moment. You're gonna trust a guy who's going into his sophomore season, coming off of shoulder surgery in his throwing arm, and Sam Darnold, who's been an extreme disappointment. Like, he was god awful with the Jets.
I mean, he wasn't. He was in a bad situation, but then again,
to be fair, the Jets are an eternal prison for quarterbacks and pretty much everyone. First round picks. I mean, maybe Sauce Gardner might prove that wrong. I'm hoping he doesn't, but nothing personal, Sauce. But like, Sam Darnold was awful in the Jets. And the first 3 games in Carolina, he was looking pretty solid, and then he just fell off a cliff. So, I mean, we know Kyle Shanahan is an offensive and quarterback guru, but so maybe there's something there. But you're willing to trust Brock Purdy coming off of shoulder surgery and an awful Sam Darnold over the number 3 overall pick who you traded a bountiful for like 2 seasons ago. What the hell are
And
you thinking?
and that's,
Yeah.
and look how each, party turned out, looks
No, the
Philly
Dallas
got,
Cowboys are the absolute winners of this trade. Even if they manage to get him for a first, like the Cowboys would still win this trade considerably.
Because they drafted Micah Parsons at that exact same spot where San Francisco was prior to all the deals.
And keep in mind, before then they wanted to draft Patrick Surtain, but
but that's a point.
Micah Parsons is a way better player than Patrick Surtain.
This is a win for 3 teams and a humongous loss for 1 team. Obviously San Francisco, they're going to contend for a Super Bowl this year. I think they had to see that, saw their window, and decided to dump their a player they had to give up. I mean, like if you're in a window, right, you kind of like don't have much room for error, and I think they saw that they had to just get rid of him for basically anything. And then
no room for error, and yet you signed Sam Darnold. He's done nothing but been a big error his whole career.
I don't know what they were thinking. They just set Lance up for failure. Shanahan did with Kaepernick, and now this.
You should have trusted in Tom Brady during free agency, Shanahan, but you didn't.
Yeah.
And then
and then we see how we see how Miami has turned that into so many good players. Tyreek, obviously,
Jalen
Waddle, and Bradley Chubb. And that
Jalen Phillips too. No.
That was their own. That was their own pick. But
right.
Yeah, just those players, and then Philly, gets
really, if you look at it, connecting back to Miami, like one player is responsible for like Miami basically getting 6 overall picks. I mean, six first round picks. You remember the Laremy Tunsil trade?
Laremy Tunsil, yeah. And then obviously Philly, they got a good deal out of it too. They got obviously Devontae Smith at 10th, but then we forget that and then we forget Miami traded 2 first rounders to move from 12 to 6 in 2021. So I'm not sure.
And they also lost the first round pick because of the tanking allegations with Stephen Ross.
Yeah. And I'm not sure who that turned out to, but I think that might have turned out into Jordan Davis or AJ Brown, one of those 2, players. And any like that is insane, considering that the main culprit of the 2 main culprits of this trade aren't even on the team that everything originated from.
Exactly. Really, if you look at the Laremy Tunsil trade, was just a seismic earthquake that may have potentially changed the NFL for the next 10 years.
Wow. Crazy.
It was Jordan Davis that turned out, from the Miami pick. So like that's an amazing deal. So, for somebody who's not on team anymore.
Even then, I'm still trying to gauge San Francisco. I mean, granted, you've shown with an injury-riddled Garoppolo that you have the talent to make it far without I'm not hating on Jimmy G, but it's like you've shown that your team can make it far when you don't trust your quarterback that much. Like we've seen time and time, like their run when they made it to the NFC Championship against the Rams, you saw they trusted a lot of their team. I mean, granted, I would when you have Robbie Gould as your kicker. You trusted your special team. I would say you trusted your special teams a lot more than you trusted your quarterback. And of course that paid off dividends well against the Cowboys in the wild card round, where I don't know what they're thinking about on that draw play on the last play of the game. Arnav, you're probably still chuckling over that.
Yeah, it was so funny.
And of course, my favorite game of that postseason, when the Green Bay fiasco fail, when San Francisco special teams scored more points than the Packers.
No, scored all the points in that game. Think about it. The touchdown, the field goals, and the extra point.
And they prevented 3 points with the block kick.
Yeah.
But
let's focus back to this. Yeah.
Yeah, but we saw back in the NFC Championship game, especially like once the first half was over, that San Francisco really stopped trusting the offense because of the quarterback, and they started trying to rely a lot more on defense and special teams. You remember the turning point of that game, of course, and like
Yeah. But they didn't
so
really have a
San
choice though without like you know what I
that
mean
is true.
without their
That is
cornerback.
true, but that is true. But
Mhm.
still, San Francisco has shown that they can survive without relying too heavily on quarterback play.
That's true. I feel like all
But
they really need is like a game manager, like we saw with Jimmy G. Like even Brock
that's
Purdy
exactly
with
what
their
Jimmy
run to
G
the
was.
even Brock Purdy's run to the NFC Championship game. I mean, he wasn't like I mean, he was pretty good. He was pretty solid. I kind of understand where the Niners are coming from with like giving him the reins because you know they wanted Trey Lance, but you know sometimes things just work like that, and they see this guy come out of you know the last pick Mr. Irrelevant, and then take them to the championship, and now he has probably even more weapons and or all the same weapons, and you know what I mean. So sometimes it happens when you are the prisoner of the moment,
I mean,
and you know what I mean.
almost a direct parallel of this, almost the Drew Bledsoe Tom Brady situation, except they
Kind of
won a
like
Super
that.
Bowl before this happened. But
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like
but
that. But I
and
mean,
I
yeah,
guess in a similar way, Carson Wentz, Nick Foles, I guess.
kind of. Yeah, I could
Mhm.
see that because Nick Foles just had an
Yeah.
opportunity and he ran with it. But I mean, I'm more surprised that they did not at least make Trey Lance the backup because I think over Sam Darnold, I think he definitely would deserve at
And
least a
and
backup
a
role.
and a Brock Purdy coming off of shoulder surgery.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that too. Yeah, that's another thing I didn't even consider. So I was like, I mean, I was surprised that they traded him to the Cowboys. I think that's just a good move for, you know, the Cowboys that gives them more
No,
quarterback depth and trade him
the
away
count.
for like, a ton. So I mean, you know what
Like
I
I
mean?
said, even if the Cowboys gave up a first round pick for this, they'd still win this trade.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. But I mean, for Lance, if he really had no role in San Francisco, he was just going to be a third string quarterback when he has the talent to be probably a starter. If he was, you know, fully healthy, and you know they drafted him third. So I mean, you know, I mean, he's going to be behind like Dak Prescott, and you know they got their quarterback situation figured out
Wait,
there. But
isn't Prescott in his contract year now, or is that next year?
I think it's either this year or next year, and I think Jerry Jones has come out and said, yeah, we're going to extend him too. We're going to extend Dak too. So honestly, I expected Minnesota to trade for Lance. Either Minnesota. I saw Tampa Bay
That
also.
would have been interesting because
Yes,
Kirk
that he's
Cousins is
from
going
there.
yeah,
into his
Kirk,
free
yeah,
agency year,
Yeah,
makes
I'm not.
sense.
I'm very surprised that they didn't pull
and
the trigger.
Tampa
Tampa
Bay would have
Bay.
been intrigued because Baker Mayfield is not exactly that
Yeah.
great.
I'm also surprised Atlanta didn't pull the trigger.
No, no, no.
On
Well, then again, it's the NFC South. Like a team with 5 wins could
but
probably win that division.
but the idea is right. You see Lance, you see how he can run. Obviously would fit. Much better into that Atlanta offense. Because of his ability to make some plays on the ground. Um, I also saw. I think. I mean, even though they did draft Hendon
Maybe
Hooker,
Denver. I mean, but then again,
Denver, yeah.
Russell
You
Wilson
can't get out of
insurance.
Russell Wilson's horrible contract.
I saw Detroit maybe because I'm sure they
Ooh,
have Hendon Hooker,
that
but
would have been interesting.
yeah, I mean they have Hendon Hooker obviously, so
Yeah,
like it would have been
they had like a
it
ton
wouldn't
of
have been.
quarterbacks too.
Yeah,
Interesting.
they're gonna have to make some decisions in 2 days. So I mean those
Yeah.
are all the teams I saw. I mean like I thought it was Minnesota that they were gonna pull the trigger.
Maybe potentially Seattle could have been one of them.
Seattle, I
Potentially
mean like you still have 3 years for
of Geno
Smith,
Smith.
so
Yeah,
yeah, so you kind of
And he had a
have
good season last
it's
year.
kind of stupid to do that at this point, knowing that you have a starter for 3 years. Maybe down the road, who knows?
and
But
then again, that was a stupid suggestion by me.
mm,
Division rivals almost never
Yeah,
trade with each other.
that's
I
true.
I mean I was surprised it wasn't Minnesota. I'll be kind of clear. I was very surprised.
No, no, you brought up Tampa Bay. That would have been
Mhm.
an intriguing
Yeah, I think
option.
that would have been like
Yeah, because I mean, like
crazy.
they've
Their
clearly
quarterback situation is like
they've
something.
clearly given up on Kyle Trask. Despite drafting him in the second, they've clearly given up on him. So I mean, like you could try it out with Trey Lance. I mean, making any deals at
You
this
have nothing
point.
to lose.
I mean, like the problem is you can't make any deals at this point in the season and expect him to be a starter. You just can't. It's 2 weeks before the season starts, so
Right.
that's
Yeah,
not
true,
nearly enough
true,
time to
true.
learn an
Well,
offense, get
well,
acquainted.
wait. You said that, and Baker Mayfield was traded to the. Well, Baker Mayfield got cut, and then went to the
Mhm.
Rams,
Oh
and then
yeah,
two
he literally
days later,
started in
and then
that
2 days
game
later leads a
and
win
won
against
the
the
game.
Raiders.
I agree. I mean, like that's one example, but I'm just saying if
Probably a
if
one
you
in a
bring
thousand example.
yeah, yeah, that's the point. If you're kind of bring in somebody like, Lance, who, is drafted highly and, who still has a chance, you shouldn't do that at this point. You should have done it the second they signed Sam Darnold. Like, you should have done it way back when. Because, Tampa Bay, obviously they're in a tight situation this year. Obviously they're just gonna hope, Baker's okay.
They're in like the crossroads of whether to contend for playoffs, because they're definitely not Super Bowl contenders right now.
Mhm.
You
And then
you needed Tom Brady for that.
their cap space is just so bad at this point. And that's why I said they're in a really tight situation. They're signing a
And
guy,
Trey Lance is still on his rookie deal.
yeah, that's the idea. I meant like, yeah, I would have done it, the second, Sam Darnold was signed, but Minnesota, Tampa Bay, those are my top two choices for, this team for Trey Lance. Dallas is just, I mean, I understand Trey Lance, he's going to be a backup for 2 years, but you should at least get a starting chance somewhere. Clearly
I
not
mean,
San
but
Francisco.
it I could kind of understand like the sentiment behind of it, because it's like Belichick explained when they drafted Tom Brady, like, and he was the fourth quarterback on the roster. Belichick said in an interview, like, I forget which one, he said the reason we didn't release Tom is because we didn't want to give up, we didn't want his talent to go somewhere else, even though we already had like our starter and two backups. So he said
Hmm.
like Tom Brady was at the time essentially
Yeah.
a wasted roster spot that could have been used towards like
Mhm.
a receiver, running back, a defensive end, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Could you imagine
but
that?
the, but no,
That's crazy though, just
uh,
to think about that.
yeah, but I'd like I think I don't mind thinking about that sometimes, and then I look back at this career and I'm like, yeah, that was a pretty good decision by Belichick.
Right.
But like, but but see, even there is a 6th round pick. Belichick saw
Hmm.
the value in Tom Brady there. Like he's like,
Yeah.
why is he falling so low? Like, I mean, of course, Trey Lance was third overall, but I feel like Trey Lance's talent is something you shouldn't really easily trade away,
Yeah.
especially when you trade everything. You
Mm.
move mountains for this guy. Like, I don't get it. Like, honestly, I think this is the year San Francisco does not go to the NFC Championship game or better. This is probably the year John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan gets fired, or both.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, they, I mean, like, I don't see that happening just because, he's so successful. But like, if they start to, dwindle later on, maybe in, 3 or 4 years, because, all the players, they know their window is like closing, it's very, very minuscule right now. They better win one within the next few years, because,
No, no, no,
I mean,
not
like,
few years. Within 2 years.
within,
These
yeah,
players aren't
2 years.
exactly
Yeah.
going to be young forever. Like George
Yeah.
Kittle is not going to be this dominant
Yeah,
like
he was
two
the
or
one
three years from
he
now.
was the one, I think he was the one who said the window was closing. So, you better, figure that out as soon as possible because you have no room for error here. Your fan base has been, wanting a win for, about 20, 25 years now. You know, you've come close, you
No,
kind
no,
of had a
you've come close several times within the past 2 decades. Like your best chances of contention were from 2012 to 2014, and then now 2020 to now. Like,
2019 to now. Yeah.
well,
Just remember the
yeah,
Super
yeah,
Bowl that year.
counting
Yeah.
from the 2019 season, yeah. I
Yeah.
was counting
So
like towards the end of the
you
season,
yeah.
2020, but
It's just, it's just kind of really weird how Garoppolo, underwent two season-ending injuries, and they're like, hey, we still want you back, instead of, Trey Lance just having one and then he's done. That was They just
it,
set him
it's
up for
certain
failure.
it's certainly interesting.
Yeah.
Certainly, like
Hmm.
Trey Lance got thrown under the bus, but he was tied to a railroad track. But luckily,
Yeah.
there's some pioneer riding by. His name was the Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboys to save Trey Lance.
Obviously not the team you'd expect, but it's gonna be interesting how that's gonna work out. If
Now,
if
my
Dak
que-
doesn't.
now my question is, what does the quarterback room in Dallas look like now? Because
Well, remember
Dak is Jerry Jones's guy.
yeah, they just cut Will Greer, they just cut Will Greer after his game
and
yesterday.
Yeah,
and
I
Will
saw
Grier
that.
balled out. He balled out in the
Yeah, and
preseason.
so they cut him after they gave him a chance yesterday.
Mm,
Hey, show what you can do. Then they cut him. So I think Cooper Rush. Obviously he's going to compete for that backup spot. So
yeah.
it's
He
just a
started for them when
questionable.
Dak was out
Yeah,
there. He won for
yeah, and
games.
he was he was decent. I'm not gonna go say that he was the best, but he performed like a backup. He didn't make any glaring mistakes until that Philly game. But other than that, he played well. You know, so it's just questionable. They already have a one quarterback locked in. They have maybe a second. So I don't know why you want to go from third string to third string. It's just questionable.
Yeah,
I mean, in Minnesota, at least probably he'd have a shot at the second. At Tampa Bay, he'd definitely be the second. I mean,
definitely.
like even without playing a snap,
I mean,
because
well, I'd say probably by week 3 or week 4, he definitely had a shot at being the starter. I don't have any confidence in Baker
Probably.
Mayfield.
yeah, he'd definitely be the week 3 or week 4 starter once he yeah. I mean, like yeah, it's just a questionable decision by Dallas. I mean, San Francisco had to get something back. They just said, "Hey, does anybody have a half-eaten bag of popcorn?"
Yeah,
And
I mean,
yeah,
you know, if you think about it, this is kind of like an opposite situation with Green Bay because like Green Bay, like essentially Jordan Love has been benched his entire rookie contract. Like he was sitting
well, not
behind Aaron
benched.
Rodgers.
Well, not bench. He's not benched. He just wants to get. That's
Yeah,
what
he
the
was just a
greats have
backer.
done. Yeah, no, that's what the greats have done. I don't fault Green
Hmm.
Bay. It might have taken them maybe 1 or 2 years too long, but what they're doing with him is what you should do with every good quarterback. Mahomes sat, Brady sat. It's just every quarterback just sat for a year or two and then became great. So I no fault on Green Bay's part. It might have taken a year or two too long, but I agree with what they did. But go on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or
All right. Yeah, so do you guys wanna do like
Yeah.
NFC and AFC championship predictions and Super Bowl predictions like real quick now
let,
that we've
let's
been
see.
talking about the
I mean, I
NFL?
think we've
Let's
already done that with the entire series, but I'll just say I think I I mean like I don't think a team other than Philly can win the NFC. They're just Philly's too well coached, too talented,
the only
just
team that really has a chance is San
San,
Francisco.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
San
I'm
Fran.
thinking too.
That's the
So
only team I think could, but I think just Philly's
it's
too
gonna
well
be
coached,
tough. Yeah.
too
Okay.
talented players.
All right.
Uh, the AFC is I Kansas City. I just can't pick any
Mm,
other team. Kansas
No,
City,
no.
maybe
it could be the
Cincinnati, but that's
Bengals.
about it.
Yeah.
Let's
I
see.
just can't.
Let's see. Biased pick Patriots.
So
Unbiased pick. I gotta go Cincinnati. Then
I
biased
think
pick.
Cincinnati.
Let's see.
Cincinnati, yeah.
Let's see. Biased pick NFC. You guys are gonna laugh when you hear this, but I will stand by it. Detroit and on.
Yeah,
All the
Detroit.
way to the
They
Super
might.
Bowl.
I think
Yeah, damn right.
Detroit. Yeah, Detroit has continuity from last year, which San Francisco and Philly doesn't have. Obviously, Philly
That's
lost both
true.
their coordinator.
See,
San
and then
Francisco lost one. Detroit didn't lose it either. So it's a good. They could definitely get to the championship game,
let's see.
but
Yeah, and
that's
then
about it.
unbiased, I'd still pick San Francisco. San Francisco. You know what I
Yeah.
really want though? Here's what I want a throwback ball, like a throwback Super Bowl. Like the Bengals 49ers, they clashed twice in the 80s with Joe Montana. I want to
hmm
see
Ooh, that'd be a good
Bengals
one.
49 I want to see Bengals 49ers this year.
That would be a great matchup, because they played 2 years before, and that was a good game. It
No,
came
that
down
was a
to
great game. That was a great
yeah.
game.
I
It went
think
into overtime, yeah.
yeah, and then obviously you have who a top three quarterback in this league in Joe Burrow versus
The best
a
quarterback, aside
I
from
mean,
Mac
it
Jones,
could
of
be,
course.
yeah, yeah. But the idea is, you have a top three quarterback, and then you have a defense who's, just, it has stars at every position, every level. So I just,
And they got rid of Eli Apple, so automatically
no,
their defense got better.
I'm talking about San Francisco's defense.
Oh yeah, but
San
even
Francisco's
then,
defense, they have talent, they have coaching.
Hmm.
Steve Wilkes was a great hire. Obviously I wanted, most people wanted him to stay in Carolina. That didn't work out. And then you have San Francisco's offense, which is star-studded, and is very well coached versus the Bengals defense that is always, it's in the postseason, they just come to life. I don't know how to explain it. They are locked down in the postseason. Like they held, Josh Allen.
Except for the last 55 seconds of that game.
I mean,
Idiots.
not even last 55 seconds. It was the special teams return, obviously, but Cincinnati's defense is very, very good. They're very underrated too. I mean, like they've held Mahomes to 3.5 points before, held Josh Allen to 10 points in the divisional game
And they picked
last
off
year.
They picked off Mahomes twice in that championship game.
Yeah,
one in overtime.
Yeah, and but that was 2 years ago. Obviously, Mahomes has changed since then. But I mean, if Lou Anarumo can still find a way to work his magic with all those players from last year gone, they're both their safeties, a starting cornerback's gone. They had to do some stuff through the draft, and I think they
and
definitely.
Of course, Joe Burrow's contract is coming up.
And I think and with the Mike Brown saying that they probably won't be able to keep T Higgins, they probably kind of have to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't think
and then
that's a team.
A smart option would probably be franchise trade Higgins and then trade him away to. The Cowboys always want receivers, so they'll probably take him next year.
But at the same time, right? I think you're right. The Cincinnati just can't let him walk for nothing. That's stupid considering.
Or what? This is going to be awesome. I mean, whoever's the quarterback, 1 and 2 punch, Justin Jefferson, T Higgins.
But like you have to be able to afford Jefferson and Higgins. Higgins is going to command $25 million a year minimum. He's very good.
25.
Well, if you think of what he's done, especially with Jamar Chase, right? I mean, like he's had 1,000 yards almost each season. Even with Chase, and he's been great when he's sidelined. So, yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to at least if not 25, at least 20 million. And you can't afford two $20 million receivers at any level. You just can't. You're gonna have to make a lot of decisions.
But yet we can afford $50 million quarterbacks.
That's one position, and obviously yes, but Jefferson's going to get over.
I mean, maybe to your point, this is why Minnesota should have traded for Trey Lance because he's still on his rookie deal till next year.
Yeah, and then because you have to pay Burrow, you got to pay Higgins, you got to pay Chase later on.
You got to pay Bates, and then
they let him walk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's in Atlanta.
Then who am I thinking of? That they need to pay.
You need to pay maybe one of your defensive stars.
Was it Trey Hendrickson or
they extended
Sam
him? They extended him this summer. Sam Hubbard's also.
But those are 1 year. But those are 1 year deal for Trey, if I remember correctly, right?
For Trey Hendrickson, but it keeps him under contract through the start of 2025 to 2025, which is they have him locked in for the foreseeable future, which is good. They also have to extend. They have to consider extending a lot of their players soon, so they better win that bowl within this year or the next year because T Higgins is going to be 2021. Yeah, T Higgins is going to be free agent after this year, so you better win the Super Bowl this year. I think
Tyler Boyd is also
I think his contract might be coming up. I'm not sure, but as I said, you have to keep that core together quickly, otherwise he's heading into the final year of his contract too. So, you better, figure that out quickly.
Come on, Bengals.
Because,
now's your time.
Because, Cincinnati's owner, Mike Brown, obviously he's a very, very cheap guy,
No, he's forget the NFL. I would put him in the top 5 cheapest owners in American sports now.
Yeah, he's very bad when it comes to keeping players. I was thinking Ochocinco might be the only person who he actually had the ability to keep, but even then that didn't work out. After a while, because obviously he went to New England afterward. So you better win that Super Bowl this year is what I'm saying, because you're not going to be able to keep everybody, especially T Higgins, who's one of the tallest receivers in the league. He has that rare ability to it's like those 50-50 balls become 80-20 balls for him, and it's a 1-2 punch. If you don't do that this year, you're kind of toast. You're not going to win a Super Bowl for a few years.
Yeah, and you're going to ruin Joe Burrow's career.
Yes, exactly.
Which would be a crime.
Mm,
So we
yeah.
could, yeah.
Yeah, I guess real quick. Yeah, I think it's comes down to four teams really. Chiefs, Bengals, Eagles, and
Mhm.
49ers. Kind of like last
Hey,
year,
just
but
like last year.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Super Bowl rematches don't tend to happen very often, so I'm not
That's
gonna.
why I
Mhm.
want to see it. No, no,
It would be
no. Well,
interesting
Yeah.
because I feel like those two teams, like, they're a little bit above the other ones. Although the Bengals do have a penchant for beating even a healthy Patrick Mahomes, so we could see, a shift in the power balance, and we could see that happening.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I'm gonna do the opposite here and um keep the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and put them against the
boo.
49ers. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I think any of the four combinations or whatever can happen. It could even be like Eagles, Bengals, but I don't know. I like what the 49ers are doing. I really feel like it depends on where the NFC Championship game is. Like if it's in Philly, it's going to be pretty hard, even if Brock Purdy ends up really good. If it's in San Francisco, they probably have a chance. But
playing any game in Philadelphia if you're the road team sucks.
and
Because
probably same with like Kansas City too. So yeah.
Mhm.
So anyway, so I'm gonna go Chiefs Niners, and assuming Mahomes' ankle's perfectly healthy, it's probably gonna be too much for San Francisco. But anyway, like I said, any of those possibilities can happen. That's just my early season
Mhm.
prediction. But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's about all the time we got for this one. We're gonna do another episode on college football as the season approaches, and week one previews and stuff like that. So stay tuned for
Mhm.
that, and we'll be right back.